What up, y'all? It's me, Chuck Dog, back again with episode number 2 of Memory Card Mafia. Me and Kid Nico, we go back in again. This is kind of our part 2 of our intro episode to our podcast. This episode's called Friendship, where we talk about how we meet for the first time, or at least when I see him for the first time. We had some audio issues like usual, you guys. I'm a dummy. I didn't realize StreamYard has a 2 hour limit. So the last two podcasts we've recorded have been over 2 hours, fam. And I didn't realize there was a limit. So when I go to download them and edit them, there's like 20 minutes of them that's fucked up. I do apologize. I fixed that. So going forward, we shouldn't have any audio issues. But because I did have audio issues, I got some desyncing things with the videos and the audio. So for about 30 seconds to 60 seconds to the beginning of this video, there's going to be a little bit of delay with the video to the audio, then it fixes. I had to use some Adobe free program shit to like automatically sync it. I think I fixed the problem, but anyways, let's get to the show. I do apologize for the inconvenience. There is, like I said, about 20 minutes cut from this video, but it kind of worked out, you guys. So I appreciate the comments, the like, the support. In this one, we're going to be talking about growing up, hanging out, meeting for the first time, video games, music, all that kind of shit, retro gamings, budget-friendly setups for y'all trying to get into some retro console gaming, shit like that. And we just go into it. This podcast is about 2 hours long. I do apologize again for the audio issues and the sync issues. Like I said, it fixes in about 60 seconds of the beginning of the episode. And that's it. If you like this kind of content, let me know in the comment section below. You can also listen on Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff. And if you want to support us, you can go to our Patreon, and the link of these videos or these audio podcasts, there's going to be a description. I'm sure the link will be there. So appreciate the support. Let's get to the show. Thanks. I think her name was Miss Wright. I had an English teacher across from Mrs. What's the short spiky hair lady that you had?
Miss Weitzel.
Weitzel. She was a fucking firecracker, wasn't she?
She was a feisty one, yeah.
Maybe you could tell a story about what she did to you, but or why this even happened. But so, I think I had like gotten in trouble myself or something, and I don't remember if I missed a field trip or something or whatever. But I maybe I'm just putting two different events together. But I just remember, dude, walking past, leaving Mrs. Wright's room, which was like adjacent and across the hallway from Miss Weitzel's room, and she sounds like some German shit, doesn't it? Miss Weitzel, dude.
It is, yeah, for sure.
But I walk past her room and I look inside because you're in school, you walk past, the doors open, sometimes you look in there, and I look in there and I didn't see Miss Weitzel, but I saw you in there, or I saw this kid in there. And back then you had that fucking jailed spiky hair from like the Sums 41 or
yeah, I was totally doing the Derek Wobbly thing.
Yeah, with the spike. Is that why you did it though?
No, but it just happened. Actually, I think it was because the middle brother and Malcolm in the Middle or whatever.
Really?
Oh, and it gave me the idea, yeah.
Well, I can't talk shit. I had a chili bowl just because I saw my cousin have it, and I was like, that's kind of cool.
I think we all had chili bowls at some point, honestly.
Yeah, proper penis head look. You got
that was just like the '90s, like Bill Clinton era hairstyle.
It fits the show, dude. It fits the show, Well, we'll bring it back. What you think the chili bowl is going to come back for guys?
Oliver Tree tried to.
That's true. Yeah, I like that dude, man. He makes
music. Yeah, now he's doing like travel videos and stuff, and that's really neat because it's like he kind of pivoted on that. But he's like traveling the world, just kind of like still sort of staying in character and stuff, but it's like fun.
Well, he's probably pivoting because of like what's coming, the AI, bros. I'm not saying obviously it's going to end music and content creation, because I feel like if anything, it's going to make like actual real content and real music and real skills by actual humans more valuable and more important. And really, what happens, man, when we move into the future when everything is AI? Will there be nostalgia about this time for sure, right? I mean, you're gonna. Would there be nostalgia vibes about
yeah, I mean, you get into this weird area of like, okay, so are people going to be a nostalgic about watching somebody play a video game? Because like now, a lot of people
Yeah.
watch people play video games versus playing them. So is it like in 20 years, are people going to look back and be like, I really, I really miss watching real people play games. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
In a lot of ways, yes, because nostalgia does like scale with your person, and people
yeah,
become, and I think people are nostalgic of their generations in different ways. Where boomer generations just like thinks about the white picket fences and the good old days, and
yeah,
our generation, at the point we've come to, we're nostalgic for that late '90s, like 16-bit gaming
SpongeBob.
era. And then our cultural like coming of age was the edgy early 2000s. So it's just like a real cool late '90s, early 2000s is a neat time. And I think as we have become more able to access like all the things that we wanted to have from like our past, is now it's just like, well, if I want to go back and play something from back in the '90s, or if I want to watch something from back in the '90s, I can do that. But at the time, it was like a something that came and gone. You couldn't just like get on Amazon and buy
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Super Nintendo.
Yeah, that's a good point. Something though, that the missing key part for me is on a personal level, like going home at night and or sitting down and pulling out something to play or whatever. It's great, and I am so thankful that we do live in this time where we can have these handhelds and these old retro games and stuff and play it pretty easily and pretty cheaply. But there's that missing element of that community, dude, and that's another reason why I wanted to do this. And even if it's just me and you, it ends up just being me and you bullshitting and talking, man. Like, that's the fun part about it, is like taking a game or taking something you're really into and then like, yeah, just hashing it out, talking about it, enjoying it, and sharing the experiences with your buddies. I know me and you both are busy. You got your family and I got my shit going on, but like, this is something I miss so much, like just nerding out. And I was thinking about that
Mhm.
today, like the years spent in your basement grinding out, playing games, and just being nerds and partying and growing up, dude. I mean, we grew up in your basement. And I was thinking about today, when we all were playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare, dude. And we had 3 or 4 TVs set up, 3 or 4 360 set up. And we did that for months, just grinding it out, like
Yeah,
a month or
it's
two, just
crazy to
grinding.
think about now. I mean, I think about that and like Halo 3 as well. As we had,
Yeah.
and it was all like the big old chunky CRTs. And so we just had these big ass box TVs all being plugged in the corner of a basement. It's like crazy fire hazard.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I man, yeah, I was thinking about that today because it was just like, I miss that. I guess what I was getting at was I miss that community. And like when you're a kid and you're growing up and the world's not, the world's your oyster type thing, you don't really realize how important like all that really was, and how being forced, or maybe not forced, but like just because you are a kid, you go to school together, and you're with each other all the time, you're staying at each other's houses on the weekends. Something about that, with our generation especially, like slumber parties and video games or sleepovers, where you want to call them, that like it was every weekend for us, and usually gaming, mostly gaming, but we hang out and sometimes party. But a lot of times we were just hanging out being nerds and either playing PC games, LAN part, like having a LAN type thing, or yeah, on the Xbox, or even literally, I mean, how many years have we played and how many times have we played freaking Super Smash Brothers, just coming over and hanging
Oh
out
yeah,
over the years, like still like
yeah, yeah.
like
No.
like dude, melee
It,
go ahead, sorry man.
I was gonna say no. I agree. Is those games stay relevant, and you could even get back into. I mean, I think we've all reached for the nostalgia of like what WoW meant to us all back in the day.
Yeah,
But I do think that's a big part of it. Is like you can get everybody back on WoW, and we can all play together, but we can't actually play together. And
no.
so that's the biggest thing. It's like if we all got back in a basement, or we had a big compound where we are all playing World of Warcraft, we could bring some feeling back to what it like really meant to us all back in the day. But I think that was a missing component. going into the modern like era.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the feelings. I talked about this with our other buddy, Card, and I remember me and him. We would like have a snow day our junior year of high school, and just that was the best feeling playing like World of Warcraft Burning Crusade, loving our little pure or our little twinks characters or whatever. For people that don't know what a twink character is on wow, I'm not talking about a twink. I'm talking about a fucking it's basically like if you ever play RuneScape, it's like it's a character that's optimized to basically kill other people's characters with through gear or through certain builds and shit like that. So I'm sure most people watching this know what the fuck we're talking about. But we would skip school and he would use his main character to run me through like dead mines. You know, we were horde characters at the time. So I just remember there was a snow day specifically that I remember me and him, of course we didn't go to school. So instead of going back to bed though, we literally it's like 6 a.m. Me and him, we both jump on WoW and checking our auction house and it's like, man, let's do some PvP characters today. So we go off making rogues and we hit the dead mines. And it was just, I was thinking about that the other day, like that nostalgic feeling of that. And just one day in itself is so cool to me. Like just spending time with my bro on Discord.
Yeah.
Or maybe
we even remember that particular day so distinctly. Like, you know, that meant something with you. It was like a memory that stuck around.
Yeah. Let's finish up the first time I saw you, bro. Well,
yeah.
I
know. How did we get here?
Well, you know, we both well, at least I'm part well, maybe we shouldn't say I'm doing this kind of stuff. It's a fake prop. We're doing fake stuff on the show.
Yeah.
Anything I'm smoking on this show is a prop, and it's meant to just make me look
can
cool.
It be THCA or is that still?
No, yeah, we can talk about it. I'll cut this whole section anyways, but
I don't care.
Yeah, but you get two country guys. You that's a little bit more country more than I remember you know,
yeah, I know.
So you've been spending time working around a lot.
That's what it is. I've been around these folk for too long.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember you, dude. I walked past this classroom, right? And I look in there, and the only reason I noticed you because there was nobody in there, but the lights were on. And I see this little spiky-haired kid, pale as a ghost. I mean, you were pale. Me and you both were pale shit kids. But anyways, I was looking there, and
changed.
Yeah, I know, right? And you were in there crying, dude. Like, and I just don't. I think I was having a bad day, and I remember looking in there and being like, man,
"You were having a bad day."
And well, that's what I said. I was thinking, like, man, I'm having a bad day just because, like, my mom and them were going through a divorce at the time, and like I was just going through it because I was like right around like divorce shit, and when it was starting, so like at home wasn't the greatest, you know. And I just remember like going to school every day, being like, man, I don't fucking be at school. I'm like, just want my family to be together, type shit. And I remember looking in that room and being like, you know, like typical 90s, 2000s kid, right?
Yeah, I know. That's tough.
Right. And that's something we connect on too, because your mom, for the most part, you know, you're at the time you're being raised by a single, or you know, your mom was by herself.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and she dated and stuff, but I mean, and generally she was a single mom through and through for a long time, a big chunk of my life, majority.
Yeah. And and our parents work, so it's like, you know, people wonder why our generation is the way it is because we all raised ourselves or our own siblings, and through MTV and Cartoon Network and Toonami and all this shit. Like that's what raised us, man. Like watching, like our parents weren't home, so it's like
everybody was at work.
We're at home gaming and having a blast, dude. You know, like, but yeah, I remember looking there, seeing you crying, dude, and I thought, like, fuck, dude, like. Normally I would probably like giggle to myself, you know, but I just remember like, dude, whatever he's going through is a lot worse than I got apparently. Because I was like, if you could crying at school, you must have like. I just started trying to wrap my brain around. I was like, what did somebody do to this guy, or what happened? I thought, but I could tell you were in some kind of trouble because you were like sitting in a seat or something. But I was just like, and then I saw is obviously Miss Weitzel's class, and I was like, ugh. I was like, dude, no telling what she's doing to him. So maybe you can tell the story, like what.
Well, and so you know, and it's like one of those things. Like everybody always wants to say, "Oh, that teacher had it out for me." Miss Weitzel had it out for me just a little bit, and I can say, you know, we can play devil's advocate and say that at that point in my life. Valentine's Day dance was coming up. I had come from the school, like went from West to East Middle, and it was like a big thing, and like I felt like I was cool in 8th grade. I came into like 8th grade as like one of the cool kids, and I was like, oh yeah. And so sometimes I would do stupid shit because, you know, there were cute girls and stuff, and I wanted to impress them and do dumb stuff and make them laugh, and that was like part of it. That's what you did when you're a teenager in 8th grade. But we had a substitute come in, and I just acted a fool for the substitute, and it was dumb. I don't care. I did it. And the ultimate thing was that I ended up like throwing a dictionary, and it hit this girl's drink, and it knocked the drink over, and it made this big old fuss. And when Miss Weitzel came back, she wanted to talk to me about it, and we kind of got into it. And she was like, I don't know how it ultimately led up to it, but I know that the deal was, since that happened, I wasn't going to be able to go to the Valentine's Day dance. And so I was like upset, and I was mad and whatever. And she's like, and she was being aggressive in there, and we were like one-on-one. She's like, what did you do to the dictionary? I want you to show me what you did with the dictionary, or something like that. And like, it all sounds crazy because it kind of was crazy. I don't really know what was happening, but ultimately I threw it again just to show her, because she kept like asking for it. It's like she was wanting me to like throw it or something. It was weird. And yeah, so that fucked up my Valentine's Day dance thing. Ultimately, I got to go in there for like 10 minutes, and I danced with like 3 girls. And so, you know, fuck you, Miss Weitzel.
Those dances were everything, man. Those sock hops, and I know the dance you were talking about. I remember that because that year I always remember Valentine's Day because you know, we were especially in the middle school, because you were trying to get some kind of, maybe you're trying to get a little girlfriend, get a little kiss. But I remember that because I was
trying to hold hands that night,
kiss on somebody. So I remember. Do you remember? Well, maybe we shouldn't use people's real names, but her name was Angel. She was like the hot chick in the East Middle.
Oh yeah, 100%.
She's my girlfriend for like 2 days, you know, and one of those days was that dance, dude. And I think that's what it was, bro, is I was not allowed to go to that dance either for some fucking reason.
That's probably why you saw me in the hall during the dance.
I think it was literally for like something to do with like grades or something to do with Miss the writing teacher across the hallway. I said her name earlier, Miss Wright. It's something to do with her shit. She was a bitch, bro. She would fucking like, she didn't like me. But what was weird, bro, is Miss Weitzel loved me, bro. Everybody was like, she's crazy. She gave me candy, bro. I don't know what it was. And I actually really liked her. I liked her the way she taught. She was badass, bro, and she didn't fuck around. And I liked that.
You know what? I actually did not mind the way she taught either. As a person, I did not like her, and she didn't seem to like me. But as a teacher, I respected her.
You were a little shit kind of though too, bro.
Yeah.
You were a little. I remember when we first started hanging out, dude. You weren't like a bad kid. You weren't like go fuck with somebody, but you would do random wild shit, like jump over a desk or like jump over trash cans or knock trash cans over or whatever. But I just remember looking at you and just being like, "Damn, dude, this kid's going through it." So that was my first time seeing you. But like up until then, we didn't talk or nothing. And then obviously after, like, I mean, it was February, and then basically summer came, and then that was the end of the 8th grade. And the way our school was, once you're out of 8th grade, that's a whole different, you go to high school, it's a whole different building,
a whole different world.
So maybe we could start with day one of high school, bro, because I was going to high school. The way it worked for us is we had 2 middle schools. Like you said before, I didn't know you growing up for years and years, because the elementary school I went to, you didn't go to. And then you went to East Middle towards the end or whatever. So you actually went to a whole different elementary school and a whole different, another middle school. But when you graduate 8th grade, all those schools combine into the high school. So like I went from knowing a bunch of people and knowing all these people for like basically from kindergarten all the way up to literally being thrown into high school with nobody, bro. And my first day of school, I couldn't find nobody. Like
that's how it was for me too.
Like all the friends I had made, they like suddenly, most of them had grown 2 foot and didn't want anything to do with me, or already had made friends over the summer.
That too, yeah.
Where I lived out in the middle of nowhere, bro. I live like 20 minutes from town where all these other people spend summers hanging out and developing these bonds, and I wasn't able to. So my first day of school was pretty scary, bro. Like I wasn't scared, but I was just like felt so alone because I was like, man, like I have nobody here. And you're in high school the way they did high school then. It's not like this so much now, but you're thrown in there with everybody. So you get grown ass men, basically 18-year-old men and women with you. And I was going into high school as my birthday is in September, so I started kindergarten when I was 4 instead of going almost 6. So like I was as young, dude. I started when I was like
you
13.
were.
I was a lot, because you were a year or two older than me, bro. So
yeah. I was
so
like 2 years older, and then everybody else was at least a year older.
yeah, and by chance, dude, that was like the longest 30 minutes of like figuring out what I had to do, like first day of school, right before the bell rings. And I remember the bell rings, and it was crazy trying to find the classroom. And it so happened, dude, that it was alphabetical order. And that's how we ended up meeting. Was we were actually in the same homeroom, and we had a 1-letter difference in our name, and you were actually assigned.
Yeah, so that worked out perfect.
So I'll be honest, my first impression of you, I thought you were kind of like a preppy dude or whatever. So I was like, I don't know if this guy's going to talk or whatever. But we had like a week or two of homeroom every day, and they gradually like would send us off to like our regular ass school program or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But over those 2 weeks or a couple weeks, we became friends. I mean, we started. I don't remember the exact first thing we started talking about, but we started talking about video games, and we ended up doing a little trade. And I think I got this wrong, but maybe you remember it better than I did because you're the one that got the console. But was it a Genesis or 64? I can't even remember.
Yeah, so that was the deal. Was at the time, either I think that you had been playing Friends of Mineral Town a lot on the Game Boy Advance, and you were looking for like a retro kick, and so you wanted to get. I had a Sega Genesis that I got from the brothers down the street. So I think you were wanting to trade your Game Boy Advance for that, which I was down for because I had not played Friends of Mineral Town. I'd only played Harvest Moon 64, so and a lot of the other ones, but I was like excited to play that. And I mean, I think Harvest Moon was one that kind of kept on going with us because then we both got into a Wonderful Life on the GameCube. But then that's when I was like trying to remember when RuneScape kind of came into the picture because I think that was a big part.
Well, I don't know if you were playing it before, but I think
I wasn't until I didn't know it existed until you told me about it.
Okay, so what happened was I was still living out where I had always grown up out in the middle of nowhere in this rural town. And the guys I was talking about earlier that I had grown up with on that street, my childhood friends, essentially, we were getting older. You know, I think we were some of them. I think one of our buddies was like actually 17, 18. Most of us though were like 14, 15. And I was about to turn 14, and one of our buddies, he got his license. And you know, kids being kids in rural town, nothing to do. We got into a little trouble, nothing major, but we ended up going and breaking into the vocational school during that freshman year, early on. And we broke into the vocational school, and of all things, we stole computers because we were getting into computers, right? And we wanted to play. We literally were just like, you know, it'd be kind of cool to have one of them brand new Dell computers so we could play Age of Empires on it. Because like at the time we had dog shit computers, you know. And there was these brand new Dells in the vocational school, boxes and boxes of brand new desktops. And it wasn't even really my idea. My buddy, my other buddy that had a class in there, he's like, you know, man, we could steal them. I'll leave the window open or whatever. Maybe we'll just go around, fuck around in the school. So 4 or 5 of us pile into a car. We had a little police scan radio so we could hear cops and stuff, all this shit. One of our buddies was a fire department volunteer dude or whatever. So we drive over 2 o'clock at night on like a Saturday or something. There had been a game that night, so we figured like ain't nobody gonna be there because everybody's gonna have to do the game and shit and leave. So we wait like 2 o'clock in the morning, go over. The window is not unlocked. I'm fiddling with this window, bro, and we had like a crowbar with us, and I'm just fiddling with it. I'm like, it's not unlocked. well, I'll take a screwdriver. He's like, my buddy Daniel was like, mess with it with a screwdriver a little bit. Well, fucking thing shatters, bro. So, and we don't get into details of it because it's a long ass story that would take an hour probably to explain. But long story short, we went in, we stole computers, we got caught by the dudes across the street. They got our license plate. My dumbass friend parked backwards into a parking. So I got into trouble back to back in my freshman year, fucking around doing shit or whatever, right? Well, with these guys, and somewhere in all this, and I don't know the exact dates. But basically, I had realized I got on probation because of this, and I was looking at like maybe being sent off to like some juvie shit, weird stuff. They were, and I don't think it really would have happened, but they were just threatening us with that, and I was crap.
Yeah.
So we did a bunch of community service, and my mom's like, "Look, like you're heading down a path. You've gotten in trouble twice, and it wasn't major shit, but like you're young, you're not 18 yet, but like at some point, like your shit will get fucked up if you do that." And I was like, "Yeah, and I wasn't a bad kid, so I was sitting there thinking about it, like, man. And I remember I had made that connection with you that freshman year, dude. And I think we would hang out like at the coffee shop that formed. And so we were hanging out here and there. And whenever there would be like a assembly, they would call us, or whenever it was picture day, or I think we even had a class together or something at one point. And so we were building up. Yeah. And our lockers were next to each other. That's what it was. Remember? Because
they were.
In homeroom, we all went with our locks, and they showed us how to do the lockers. So we were right next to each other, and that's how I met. Ended up meeting Evan and stuff eventually too, because the following year we were all. But through that year, we developed a friendship, and eventually you invited me over to your house one weekend, and that's kind of how it all kicked off. And when I was over there, I guess I should backtrack. I ended up deciding I had to leave living with my dad. I love my dad more than anything, dude, and those guys were my best buds, and they had been for my whole life up until this point, from kindergarten all the way up to high school. And it was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to do. But I decided, like, yo, I'm gonna go live. My mom moved back from England, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna go live with her. She lived over in town close to you, and I was like, I don't know anybody over there, and I knew you though, and I was like, I went over your house, and after that, you probably don't know this, but that time you're a big reason why I even went down the path that I did in life, because if you didn't make friends with me, I probably would have rolled with those guys and got into trouble, man. Because every one of those guys, except for one that I grew up with, got on drugs really bad, and they all got into some trouble and caught some kind of charges. So I'll think about that all the time. Like, man, if I didn't ever go, I just knew in my gut that I didn't know you very well, but I knew you were a good enough kid that you were a lot better of a friend for me than those guys were, because those guys just wanted me to do shit that get me in trouble. And my mom loved you, dude. You ended up coming over to my house, and through that we kind of developed that relationship. But me and my mom were playing RuneScape together at the time, because her my stepdad at the time, he lived in England, and that was like their way of like kind of doing like a chat room or hanging out, was her my stepdad was playing RuneScape, because it's like it was based out of England, basically, right? I forget the names. The gal, it starts with a G, the brothers that made RuneScape. So that's where that game was made. So he played that because he was a gamer as well, and he's into computers. It's the first time I had like somebody in my life that was kind of into computers, other than like some shit at work or whatever. And he knew about it. And he's a big reason why I got into gaming on computers too, because he helped me build my PCs or helped me fix some shit like that. But he was playing RuneScape with my mom, and I came over to visit her one of those first few weekends that she had moved back and got a little house to rent over in town. And I was like, what are you playing? She was like, RuneScape. And I was like, RuneScape? I never heard of that. And believe it or not, for about a month, as I making this transition from living with my dad to my mom, I'm at home with this shitty Windows 95 or 98, I forget what it was, computer dial-up with AOL shit going, and I'm playing RuneScape, and I'm hanging out leveling one of my first characters actually on the weekends with my dad in Lumbridge outside the castle, and I'm killing rats, and it's so slow. It takes forever to get RuneScape up, and everything. But that's was some of my first memories of like a proper MMO. I had played EverQuest on the PlayStation 2. They brought an online version of it out that was actually really cool and piqued my interest. But when I played RuneScape, it was kind of that same vein, obviously a lot different. But yeah, so those are some of my first memories of RuneScape. And then I come over to my mom's, and me and my mom and my stepdad are playing this RuneScape game together, right? And of course, everybody knows what RuneScape is now, but that was some like real nerdy shit back then.
Yeah, I know. If you knew, you knew.
If you knew, you knew. And we could talk about it, RuneScape on a whole thing, but I would go over to your house and I would show you those fucking videos, PKing videos, to like Disturbed or like the Down with the Sickness, and people DDS back at each other out, like Sublime and shit. I don't know.
What is hypercam?
Yeah.
It
And
always had that little subtitle thing up here, unregistered hypercam 3.
yeah, and that kind of ties into even like World of Warcraft movies, or I think it's warcraftmovies.com or whatever. And
Hell yeah.
watching
gosh.
PvP videos, Ming and all those guys, and
Man.
that's a whole topic.
Crazy.
But
it is.
So I tell you about RuneScape, and we're watching, and that's how we started playing RuneScape together. But those games kept us together all the way through high school, though, man. Like, I mean, I think back, and of course, we hadn't hit WoW yet. That came a couple years after that. But through RuneScape, and then we got to playing. Obviously, Super Smash Brothers was another thing, because I think you had a GameCube at the time, and we grew up playing the hell out of Melee, dude. Oh, I think it's Super Smash Brothers Melee.
Yeah, we always had, like you said before, we always had a GameCube around somewhere, and that way we could always be playing Super Smash like any era of our lives for like 20 years. So it's just like, well, you guys want to play some Super Smash?
Something I always loved about you back then, dude, and even now, is you were so quirky and odd in a way. Like, you had these things about you that you're normal as fuck, but like you were into kind of retro gaming and older school shit back then. I feel like, to a certain degree, and through like Dragon Ball Z DVDs and King of the Hill, and we were already in the vein of like reliving a lot of shit we had already went through and watched, and going through the nostalgic vibes already.
I was getting into like the preservation aspect of things like a little bit earlier on, where I was like, I want the boxes and I want to be able to keep this stuff, and I want to be able to like whatever. It's like have access to these things. And so I was already like early 2000s, like I was already curious about emulating like Game Boy Advance and that sort of thing, whereas like people didn't even know that was a thing yet, like a concept even.
Did you think like back then, maybe this is a random question, but did you think like back then that in the future that you would be coming back even more, or kind of dialing in even more on that? Or did you think like back then the games are going to keep going to this level of like being better and better and fun and more and more and more? And because looking back, like I thought, like, yeah, I would have thought that eventually we get to like virtual reality, and I'm not saying that's never coming, but I felt like games have kind of peaked in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
like modern games.
Yeah, as a kid, it was always like out with the old and with the new. So like as soon as the new console came out, then the old one didn't mean as much to me.
Yeah,
and it's like it still meant things to me, and like I would get nostalgic and I'd miss them pretty quick. But like overall, I was willing to like trade them off so that I could get something new and cool and relevant and whatever. And so it did take a while before I kind of came back around to like having that a deeper appreciation, I guess, for like the stuff that came before it.
Yeah, I did the same shit. I wasn't like on like you were, but I do remember having those moments of like looking back. And I mean, when we first started hanging out, I mean, I remember thinking about N64 and how I didn't really get to experience it back when I was a kid. And I remember you could find N64s and shit at pawn shops for like little or nothing. And I was like, and flea markets were real big too. I would hit up those flea markets and I would see them in there, and I'd be like, and we talked about it last episode, but me and my buddy Daniel, one of those guys I grew up with, he was into collecting way before that. Like I remember back in like, I remember hanging out with on Y2K with him, bro. We're like 11 years old, and this dude's kept collecting like Japanese versions of Dreamcast controllers or whatever, like or
Yeah.
whatever, like random shit. I mean, I'm probably off on dates on some of that stuff, but like he was already collecting that kind of shit and already had like a really cool DVD, like he was getting cool VHS collections and animes and cartoons and
Man,
Aqua
I
TV.
would drool over that stuff because I would send off just like the CCS or whatever it is, CCS. It's like you'd send off and they'd send you a free catalog. They would do that with all the anime and mangas and like even like games and stuff like that. You could send off for that, and I would just like nerd out about looking through some of those books of like these import game systems and games, and there'd be like these commercials for Dragon Ball Z games that are like only in Japan, and I was just like, and like I didn't know how to like go about like importing this stuff or paying to import this stuff. I didn't have the money to do it. I know my mom couldn't have done it. So it was just like something really cool. Like I wish that I could have like seen more of that kind of thing because I missed out on that. But I do remember like the advertising and stuff for like selling games that I did not have access to.
Well, we didn't have the internet, and I didn't have an older brother or a really strong nerdy community. I mean, we literally to show me these things. So a lot of the stuff, it was whether it was on G4, like TV, or a gaming magazine, or word of mouth was usually how you heard about something. So
that's the only way you heard.
Yeah, just literally just now, recently in the last year or two, our hometown got a little LGS there. And that's, well, I take that back. There was one before, but it only lasted like over about where the Blockbuster was. And it might have even been in the Blockbuster building. I can't remember. But I actually didn't even get to visit that card shop. And then maybe they moved out towards Walmart for like a little bit for a second.
They started out near Walmart and they moved to the other building just to try to save money. But ultimately the business owner wasn't a business manager. So it didn't work out. He just wanted to like play games. The guy that's in town here now, I wish I could remember his name off the bat because I would actually probably name drop him. He's legit. He's definitely worth supporting. Yeah. Like you can tell he's been doing it for a long time. He was living in Florida and he opened up and ran a successful like gaming shop since like the early 90s, and then he moved here with his family and just basically started it all over again. And so like the one that he started in Florida is still like running, but he's just like off to new adventures. And so he's like a real big nerd, real cool guy.
I actually went and visited him. I wanted to support him a little bit, so I got some Warhammer paint. I forget a Ford Citadel paints from him, and went and checked out some of his minis that he had for sale up there. And
so I was just thinking, so we made a barter the other day. He traded me some barbecue for that dice. It's like a sun dice.
That's sick. That's sick, dude. So you just see him the other day then.
Yeah, we barter occasionally. So he gave me a whole dice set, where each of the dice like represents one of the planets of the 9 planets, and so I have each of the 9 planets like dice like that.
That's cool.
I traded them for like $30 worth of barbecue for that dice set, but I was like, yeah, that's solid.
That's fucking cool, man. I asked him when I was doing trading card content and shit. I was like, yo, man, like I went up there and visiting, bought some shit from him. I was like, can we do like a store tour? And he was like, fuck yeah, dude. So maybe that's something we could work on. If I come down there and visit, maybe we'll do like a little store tour, and whether I film it or you film it or however we do it, doesn't really matter, but we'll go down there and visit a store. And it might be even cool. I don't know if he'd be down for this, and some people are weird about it, but maybe even go down there and play some Magic and just record some games or something, or just do something to help shine some light on his store and shit. I forget the name of it, but yeah, what I would have give, brother, for that shit when we were kids. We could have walked to that thing where it's right to
I would have loved that. Yeah, it is. It's literally a walk away from my house now, and they do all the Magic the Gathering, and they do Pokemon cards, and they do all that, but they also do like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, a lot of like role-playing games, and just like anything that you would want, miniatures, all that. Like they involve it all. They have comic books. And it's just really neat to see that in like a small town, because that's usually like something you have to go to like the next town over, the bigger city, to find nowadays.
Speaking of D&D, would you ever be interested in, if we get a little community going, maybe we could do like Wes March's campaign where we could just have people that join on some random shit like that. That'd be kind of fun,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Oh
Wouldn't
yeah.
that be
Yeah,
cool?
man. And yes, it would. And I would love to play more with you. Like I know we tried to get into that last campaign and it was just like hard for me to manage the two. But just like playing something like casual with a bunch of people would be so much fun. I would love to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't forget my character. I mean, I'm still ready to go at any time. I'm Choke Dog Montagna. You cannot hide it.
That's how I was, and it's so funny because I do like I make these characters or like I kind of start working on these stories, and I still think about your character and I think about what direction he would go, and I've already like thought about like, well, maybe we should just do some kind of like one shot thing where he gets
I
to
would
like
love
complete
that.
his story. I think I would too.
I
I
would
think
love
that
that.
it makes me feel better to know like these characters made it to their destinations than
I've
just to like let them go float off into space.
I just feel bad because it's the first D&D character that I actually put my thought into it. Like I didn't put a lot of time in as like I have before as far like trying to figure the character's backstory out. I literally just was like, yo, this guy's a rogue. His best friend's a cat that can talk. It's it's kind of like a play off of Puss in Boots with and stuff. But basically he's searching for his cat, his best friend can talk, and him and this dude go around on adventures and shit. Well, something's happened to his best friend, and it's just a simple story of him trying to find his best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first time I actually try to do a voice for like a D&D character, like serious. And I felt like maybe I was a little bit overbearing for the party. But you know, I had so much fun doing that. That was just so fucking fun. And
That's what I want to see, and like honestly, in a lot of time, in a lot of parties, like it's sometimes best to have the person that can like kind of stand out and kind of like lead because it is like you want it to be everybody's game, but at the same time, like it's nice to have somebody kind of reining it in and keeping the control. And like I like working off of the expressive person because that makes me just that much more expressive.
well, I think too, like I've played campaigns before where it's like there's that dead silence, and like I'm like
Yeah.
this last and no one says anything. And this last campaign I was in with you, I was like, you know what? If no one else is gonna say anything or do anything or think of something, I'll just say it and think it, and we'll rock with that. And if
Mhm.
they don't like it, like I don't know, like so that's kind of like I wasn't trying to be an ass. I just was like
No.
trying to get in the character, and maybe I was a little bit overbearing or something. I don't know. I had so much fun doing it. So if you make some more time, or if we build out a little
I
community,
know.
like,
I would love
we
to
can
find a way.
fucking
We run our weekly game, and so that's become more manageable than it used to be because it used to require a lot of prep where it doesn't as much anymore. But then it's like in my little bit of free time during the week or something, I'm usually into who knows what the hell anymore. I'm trying to like figure out what my next big project's going to be. I don't know what I'm doing yet.
Well, you've had a lot of them over the years. We've been into what music, and that's another thing. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, for years we'd make little beats and little songs,
Mm-hmm.
and we still do.
Mm-hmm.
You especially, you still mess with it more than I do. But yeah, well, I take that back. Like, I got another community now I'm part of. Shout out Breeder Syndicate. But I fucking I love making little raps or little songs for them. So I do a lot of that shit.
I know.
I'll take like
That's a continuation and an evolution of anything that you did before that,
yeah.
and that's how I feel too.
Right.
Is like I kind of like how a lot of like what I've done here more recently is like just more lo-fi and simplistic, and so I'll do a cappella beats and stuff with my son and that kind of thing, and I don't have to get on FL Studio and spend 20 hours like making it. Like me and him can get a drum out and make one of these in a couple of minutes and clean it up on the internet or on my computer, and just like it's fun. I love doing that just as much as I do like a full on crazy produced written whatever type song.
That was the thing back in the day. Like Fruity Loops, it was is its own thing. Has its own little culture and little backstory about it too. Because back in the day, like you had to like kind of maybe bootleg it a little bit to even have it.
Yeah, you did.
Torrent. See, I mean, torrent.
They knew that too, and that's why they, and I mean, shout out to them for real. Like they Image Line has it down, and
Yeah.
they've made it like really fair for anybody that really wants to get into it. There's like a base level like entry rate for like everybody, and they've done a really good job.
Mm-hmm. I think I told you a few months ago, but I actually finally went back, believe it or not, and bought an actual license for it. So
Same.
I feel comfortable saying that because I
I don't know.
felt
Me
bad.
too.
I was just a poor kid. We were both poor kids.
Yeah. But you know what? They supported me through thick and thin, like legit. They
Yeah.
did, like helping me like through some really hard times, just like expressing myself and learning new ways to express myself. And so like when I was able to afford that, I went out and got as the best one I could for what I could afford nowadays.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I owe these people. Plus, you download it, you pay for the license, and you get a lifetime license. So any updates, all that's like in the mix. Like that's such a good deal. That's honestly a great deal.
Yeah, man. I got to shout Fruity Loop, or I think it's FL Studio now, but
yeah,
Fruity
Image
Loop.
Line.
Yeah, Image Line. Hell yeah. I'm sure there's some people watching. If you were gaming, there's a lot of motherfuckers that probably had FL Studio or Fruity Loops too. But I think for us, like that all went hand. That was another big thing that kept our friendship together too, because I remember I ended up buying a keyboard because of you, and we were making little beats, and we were into the Pulsar service at the time, and they were sending back little snippets and stuff, making their music that way, and we were really inspired by that. And we were just
hugely
making little beats and shit and showing them to each other.
Yeah, and all that, that kind of coincides with everything that we're kind of getting into here, is because like the postal service and the sounds they were making were very electronic, and they were very tinky and pinky and like almost chiptune-y type sounds, where it's like, well, I haven't really heard anybody do that like outside of video games before.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a different era for video games, because they were coming into CD era. So now you could have full orchestras and all that with Final Fantasy games. But a lot of bands early 2000s were kind of getting into that sound, where it's like, oh, we can bring back those sounds that we were like into growing up, and make like Horse the Band and stuff, like literally like making songs about the original Mega Man game and that sort of thing. So that was we were all already like getting nostalgic and just wanting to go back and just like listen to songs that had the ding, 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 ding type sounds.
I got a question for you. Top 3. Well, shit, that's hard now to think about it, because you get into old games too. All right, so top 5 soundtracks, and I'll give you mine real quick. So Minecraft, I fucking love the Minecraft soundtrack.
Me too. That's gonna have to be one of mine.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City, because it's just the radio, the way they had it, the skits. I still literally go back and listen to.
Me too. I do too.
I was literally listening to one the other day. Took me back. Then shit, I had the other ones right on the tip of my tongue. So Vice City, and to a certain degree, RuneScape. I know a lot of people play with RuneScape music off, but something about the RuneScape music, because it was unique and simple.
I wish that I played with it on, because now everybody like references songs where there's like, oh, this is like an OG classic, and I'm like, man, I wish I remembered this song, because this is good.
Yeah, dude. And then of course I gotta say, World of Warcraft. Anytime you go into Org or Stormwind,
yeah, it's like the intro, like music and stuff. World of Warcraft games, like you're logging in, like the sound that you get, and just like I know I could be nostalgic for like waking up in the middle of the night, or just like the computer's still on, you hear like the login screen music playing.
Yeah,
and it's like that was a whole vibe in itself.
And this is in the soundtrack, my last one, and I'm missing a bunch. I'm sure I've been smoking. I can't really keep on track, but I gotta say, like, it's not really a soundtrack necessarily. I guess it's kind of similar to Grand Theft Auto, but Guitar Hero, bro. And you were the Guitar Hero fucking master in our group.
I thought that I was, until this new generation showed up, and this new generation, I have a buddy that I worked with for a long time. And I went to like a house or a party, and it was really cool. This was only like 4 or 5 years ago, and he had a LAN party. And so they had friends that came from out of town that they grew up playing Counter-Strike with, and we all met up at his dad's house. It was really neat because I didn't even know any of these people, but they had like 15 computers or something going. We were all just
Oh,
doing like a LAN party and just playing different games. But my buddy was playing Guitar Hero, and he was literally playing with 2 guitars. And so he's like playing this real hard song, and he's like using 2 guitars and playing 2. And I was like, that's stupid, man. Like that is like another level. But
You know,
he's on another level with his interests anyway.
you know why that happened is because you peaked, or you peaked because you didn't have anybody else to compete with on a daily basis. I know
Yeah.
you and our other buddy, you guys would play a little bit together, but for what it was worth, you didn't have that like arch nemesis
No, I know.
consistently, dude. You know, but
And this generation's continued to evolve it anyway, because no matter what the sport is, whether it's MMA or skateboarding or whatever, it's like the 900 used to be the shit, but the 900 doesn't mean anything in skateboarding anymore. Like everybody and their mama can do that. And
yeah,
it's like, the same with like MMA is like somebody like Chuck Liddell used to be able to compete, but just imagine him like being in the sport today with these guys that are just so technical. And so
yeah,
it's like it's really no different. Like people have found ways to continue to evolve and get better. And it's just you get into these weird speedrunning communities. Like when I was growing up, you played Super Mario Brothers, you played it just to, you wanted to beat Bowser and save the princess. But now these people are like, well, I can do it, and I can do it in 2 minutes. And this is how I do it because I've learned this secret thing that if you do this, and it's like, well, I knew about the warp tunnels and stuff, but you guys are like glitching through walls and just like, so people have optimized and perfected it. And we've got into that a little bit anyways, like mid-max and how that's just like part of gaming culture now. Like everybody wants to be the absolute best, but then we all become like these clone, like just boring.
no style. I can't stand it, dude. And it's happened with the DPS meters on fucking WoW, dude. Like I can't stand it anymore. Like you join a raid and the dude's like, and mind you, this like I'm talking about World of Warcraft classics that we've all whether it's Wrath of the Lich King or BC or whatever it is, we've all done them for the most part a million times. All the encounters are the same. It's pretty easy, bro. And what were we talking about? I was talking about that. Just with modern games and how they're all streamlined basically because of the community essentially chasing after like perfection. It's created this like kind of fucking environment where it's not fun anymore. There's no sense of discovery because a lot of people, that's what made WoW great was there wasn't tutorials and shit in the beginning and RuneScape and stuff like that. And as content creations come on and been a thing, people have jobs and career and can monetize like making gods and shit, and they're helpful as fuck. And when you need one, you need one. But like it ruins the sense of like discovery for a lot of people. And it's we talked about earlier with like content where it's siloed. If I click on one video god on something, every time I log on to my fucking YouTube, there's 20
you'll never
other
see the
ones,
end of it.
of them, running it, and just humans want taking the easiest path or the least path of resistance type shit. You'll click it and just be like, oh yeah, okay, that's how you do it real fast. And I'm guilty of that, and I've learned
big time.
I can't stand it anymore. Like dude jump in and talking about fucking some raid that's like 20 years old that anyone can do with one finger. Like, and they're like, oh, you gotta have item score or item levels and make sure you're hitting the DPS shit. Like, what, bro? Like, this is a game, bro. I just want to game and not think about numbers and like just have fun. That's all I want to do. Yeah,
I think that's all. Yeah, and in that aspect, it's like I can also, I think that we can separate that kind of mid-max like lifestyle from the people that are like that do speed runs. I think speed running is an absolute talent. Like those guys are they are masters of the art, and it's really, really cool to see them because they're not like, I guess they're just not chasing like the same type of high that's just like, that's what happens in WoW is like you're the best for 6 months and then the new update comes out and you have to start over and become the best again.
Well, the game is so easy. WoW is so easy that there is that expectation of like, hey, you should know these fights and shit. But then it's also like you show up and they're grilling you about your gear or whatever. And back in the day when you would play WoW, and you still have noobs and shit. There's still people that haven't played it. But for the most part, it's the same dudes like me and you in our 30s or 40s or whatever that grew up playing it, that are still playing it. So there is that expectation and culture of like, yeah, you guys should know those fights and shit. But like back in the day, you made friends. I remember on BC, Burning Crusade specifically, this guy named Ohm's Law. He was a paladin tank. You remember him? He was in the guild with my mom and my stepdad when they played WoW. They had a guild of a bunch of like moms and dads back then, and we met him doing a heroic not Shatrith. I always forget the dungeons over there by Shatrith.
I remember you guys doing it.
Shadow Labs. Shadow Labs was the one heroic, and it was a little hard back then before like nerfed it and shit. And we couldn't do it. But when we met Ohm's Law, he was like our tank, dude. And he would come in and we developed a friendship with him. And we did heroics with this dude all the way up until we were geared and done with heroics. And we figured it out on the fly. We weren't like looking up guides and doing shit. And that challenge and like everything about that adversity and the wipes and shit and overcoming that without relying on some guide or perfect walkthrough or some trick or hack or whatever.
Yeah,
it was cool, man.
I mean,
and nowadays
that's what was happening is like you guys were playing through it,
man. You know, and before we forget, we got to get your fucking 5 favorite soundtracks, and I'm probably missing some old school ones I'm not thinking of. And I want to say one more. And it's not really. People are gonna say what the fuck, but I love the Rust soundtrack. I love the sounds of the chopping trees and stuff too. All that mixed in when you're fucking shooting or doing whatever on there, and that shit kicks in.
Well, if you get into like sound effects,
so maybe you could give us your top 5 soundtracks or whatever, however you define that.
I don't know. Well, yeah, that's tough because you were kind of like shooting some off for. Right away, I was like, "Well, Vice City, that has to be like up there for me. That is like classic."
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of get into and if we're talking about like actual like those types of songs, then you can get into any of the Tony Hawk games, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4s. Like the soundtracks of those were just like really, really good, really, really like of the times. But like specifically, I guess as far as games go, Final Fantasy X. Going into the PS2 era and just like playing Final Fantasy and like again is at that point like not only was it like fully orchestrated music, but I remember that song had a kind of like a metal song during like one of the video sequences, like one of the screenplays. That's what everybody called it. It was during one of the screenplays, and so that was really cool and that really stuck with me. And I think that was probably the very first like video game soundtrack that I actually purchased. Was Final Fantasy X. Not more recently as far as like a game goes, but more recently as far as like me finding like a really cool soundtrack would be Lords of Thunder. Okay. Lords of Thunder is a TurboGrafx CD like shoot 'em up, or kind of more like a bullet hell type game where you're like flying around in this mech and you're like shooting everybody and killing everybody. What was really cool about it is going into the era, I think that was 93 that it came out, 93, 94. But again, you're going into the CD era of gaming. And so the soundtrack was like this real like 90s, like early 90s, like shred metal, like music. And it's really good because it's like, they wasn't like all the way quite there as like far as like being a full on, like sounding like a full on metal band, but it's really cool because it's like this 90s heavy type metal and you're going around and it's this mech and you're shooting stuff. And so like that's a cool soundtrack. That one's a little bit slightly more obscure, but definitely worth checking out. Maybe Super Mario World would be, and that's Super Nintendo, and that's just a solid soundtrack, and maybe not necessarily the best soundtrack, but also one of the more nostalgic ones for me. And just like listening to any of the sound effects or any of the levels on that game, I think that sticks out. Ocarina of Time, and maybe for the same reasons, is like a lot of really good classics, and I think other people felt that way too, because you get a lot of dance remixes and stuff of like Ocarina of Time songs, and that was like a big part of what that game was about, is like having the ocarina and playing these unique songs. And so music was kind of like built into the DNA of Ocarina of Time. Like they were supposed to be memorable because like you're actually literally trying to memorize these notes to play in that game. So that has to be up there. And then I don't know. That's I was trying to think of like one more that really sticks out for me.
That was those were the ones I forgot that I was going to mention was the Tony Hawk games, and then obviously Dave Mirra, Pro BMX. For me,
same
was,
with it.
Yeah,
really. It had a really good, solid soundtrack, and again, just like those were cool, such cool songs, and so relevant to like that time period that it was really neat to hear those songs, and it was a little bit more like counterculture and a little bit more alternative music. And so it was just like stuff that maybe you hadn't necessarily heard before, but you could get on MySpace and check it out if you wanted to.
MySpace. Jeez, dude. I feel old now, man.
Mm-hmm.
On MySpace. Remember the angles everybody used to do? I don't know if they still do.
Oh, people do. It's just not on MySpace anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Now you have a filter that does it for you.
Yeah. Old MySpace. Man. This is a nostalgic trip, dude. I'm thinking back. You were talking about that mech game. What was it called?
That's Lords of Thunder.
Lords of Thunder. There was an old arcade game, and I want to say this would have been 90. I don't know, probably late 90s when I would play it. I would say this cabinet though was older, but there's a game, and somebody that's listening might know what we're talking about. But anyways, it's an arcade cabinet, and the game is you're flying a ship, and you're literally just moving back and forth, and you're shooting obviously stuff that's flying in to you, but it's real fast paced. And as you're going, you gain upgrades and shit. And I meant there was a gas station out by one of that. What's that big well, we don't have to say the name, but there's a big church out there on the left as you're going towards like the Guest Creek and all that shit. If you go out past the high school and you keep going, there's a little gas station out there by itself. Next to it, there's a bunch of like little warehouses and stuff. Anyways, there's a gas station there for years out where Trent's dad or somebody used to live, something like that. Well, then there years ago, they used to have a little cabinet in there, and they had some game, and I need to figure out what it is. And you might know what it is, but it's literally just a starship game you're playing, really stylized for that like really bright color look from like the 90s. And the music, the soundtrack was similar to like what you're talking, real fast paced. And I just remember going there, me and Dad would get like a big gulp, like Snickers bar, and while he was doing his shit, I would play that game, bro.
I know. I'm curious because obviously that genre was like real common, real frequent. But it also makes me wonder, was it like a like in the way like were you going this like forward towards
you could go so you could go up and down to the side, but you couldn't like just keep going forward, and the other ships and stuff were coming in. There's a bunch of games like this from back in the day.
Yeah.
But it was more advanced than I think Asteroids or whatever it was. It was
and that's what I wondered because and I kind of referenced Neo Geo earlier on, and they had Aero Fighter, and that's what stood out for it is like it just felt a little bit more advanced as you weren't playing like these little like just pretend this one is the spaceship. Like you actually had a plane, and you got to choose different planes from different countries, and that sort of thing. So it was like really neat, and you fought giant boss planes, and you upgraded your weapons as you went, and got nukes that you could drop on them, and
that's what this was cool. Kind of like deal. You'd upgrade your shit, and
I wish I knew which one it was because I'm really into those types of games, and I'm sure it's something that I've come across or something before.
Yeah, man. I don't.
Raidan is like one that I was like really into, and they have a cabinet of it there in Louisville.
That's cool, man. We never really, I know we've kind of glanced over Pokemon a little bit, but I want to ask you before we get too far along in these podcasts, did you, like, how was it for you when you were a kid with like Pokemon and like collecting? Did you watch the show? Did you play the games? I know you played obviously the handheld. We talked about that a little bit, but I've been wanting to ask you about that. Like, did you get into like the cards and everything growing up?
Yeah, I was a Poke fanatic. I was obsessed, man. And I don't I can't remember which one came first, but I want to say the game for me. I got the game before I saw the anime for the first time, and seeing the anime, I was like, "Oh, this is that game that I played." But yeah, I with Blue version, I really, really got into it, and that was like a "oh, I'm sick, I got to stay home from school today" type game. Like I was really, really obsessed with Gen 1, and then going into Gen 2 as well. I just remember like really looking forward to it, and we had to wait. And I did a video about this a long, long time ago, and it's really crappy. I'll have to dig that up somewhere. But there was like this period of time for us in North America where we got the first generation of Pokemon, and then we had to wait a while, and we didn't get any like new mainline Pokemon games for a while. Instead, we got Pokemon Snap. And then eventually we would get like Hey You Pikachu and all that as well, but we didn't get like Gen 2 as fast as Japan got it. And so I remember like getting books where it was like showing you Pokemon that would be in Gen 2 like a long time before we actually got Gold and Silver, and it was just like feeling like I was looking into the future or something. Like it was a big, big, huge deal. Like Pokemon was hyped during that time, and that's got a full theatrical release and everything. Like that was crazy how big of a sensation it was back in like that time period.
That was the first soundtrack I'd ever bought. Was the Pokemon soundtrack, and
I had that too.
yeah, we all like, dude. The movie was awesome at the time. I actually went back and watched it not too long ago. A little corny, especially if you're trying. I showed my old lady it, and she was like, kind of like but she's into the cards and stuff. So for me, I remember the moment was on the way to Christmas. Like you have like Christmas at your aunts or uncles and shit. Well, my grandma and grandpa were taking me to my uncle's Christmas, and my cousin, he was with me, and he was probably, I would say he's like 15. That's probably, I don't know, 9, 10, somewhere in there. I'm not really sure, but I remember he was in the back of the car with me, and he showed me Pokemon cards for the first time ever. And it was like, I remember the first Pokemon that I can remember. Well, first few were Bulbasaur, Eevee, Squirtle card, and a few others. He didn't really have a lot of holos. Somebody or holographics people had given him those cards, and from that day forward, I was hooked because he ended up giving me some that weekend, and yeah, dude, that's what started it. And then, of course, as we got back into school and my buddies had Game Boy Colors, obviously I got into playing the red and blue. We've already talked about this last episode, but yeah, silver, I ended up getting, or not silver, I ended up getting gold, and changed a lot. That really got me into gaming because out in the country, I remember sometimes when I go to my grandpa's and he'd like watch us for the weekend, and it'd be cold ass winter, and my grandma'd be like, "Get out of the house." I'd go up in the barn, bro, where they housed the tobacco because it was warm in there, kind of, and I'd hide up in there, or not hide, but I'd sit up in there, those tobacco stalks, and make like a little fort thing or little thing I could lay down on, and I'd have my little Game Boy, bro, my little Game Boy Color, just playing Pokemon and passing time, ready to go home because I had fucking Donkey Kong Country at home waiting, and I wanted to play so bad. And I get home, and my fucking mom, I've told you about this before, my mom's over beating Donkey Kong. This is back when you got like one save file or whatever, or maybe
yeah,
two.
I know. Yeah, Pokemon. Yeah, you had one, and you better not let your little brother or something play it because they will fuck your file up, and you'll be starting over.
A story about a Game Boy Color that I thought was crazy is we shared a Game Boy Color, a little purple one, for years and years. I ended up buying one not too long ago. When we get into the handheld episodes, the retro handhelds and stuff, I'll pull it out. But so we had this purple one we shared, and it was actually my brother's. And dude, so we played this thing and shared it, and it disappears, bro. Middle summer, and somebody stole it. But we're looking for it. Like 2 or 3 days later, I go outside, bro, and I was gonna like clean out the pool. I look at the bottom of the pool, and there's a Game Boy Color down there at the bottom of the pool, bro. And like we're poor, bro, so it crushed me. I dive in the pool,
that sucks.
grab the Game Boy, bro. I get it out.
And start trying to resuscitate it.
Yeah, I'm like I was damn near crying because I'm like, fuck, like,
yeah, that does suck, man.
Dude, that shit's very expensive, man. Like $100 some. and we only had the one, and like I said, so I'm crushed. Well, I put it in a bag of rice, bro, and believe it or not, a fucking miracle, dude. Like 2-3 days later, I pull that thing on and click it, red light or a little red light comes on, battery's about to die, but it goes, ding, comes on, dude, and it worked.
It was the Game Boy Color.
Yeah, fully submerged
Wow.
for 2 or 3 days, dude.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I was like, oh my
That's
god,
crazy. Because if it was the original Game Boy, it would be more believable. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen that one that's like in the Smithsonian that like survived the bomb or something.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's like the original Game Boy, and it's all melted and stuff, but it's still like intact.
That's wild, dude.
It is.
Yeah, dude. I thought that was crazy. I was like, man, like you drop a phone. I mean, I've saved phones like that before too, but yeah, like it never worked right.
That's really crazy. I can't believe that, but that's an amazing story because I was young and dumb, and I had an opportunity to have a Game Gear like when Game Gear was still like relevant and cool, and it was really ahead of its time because it had a backlight, which the Game Boy didn't have, and so you could play it in the dark.
26 batteries though.
Yeah, legit. It was 8 batteries. And then it was in color, which the Game Boy hadn't made it to that point yet either. So it was like just really ahead of its time, but very expensive. And just so I only had a few games. But I was playing The Lion King, and that game's such a garbage, bullshit, unfair game anyway. And I got mad at one point, and I like threw it down, and I messed it up to where there was this like a line that ran through the top of the screen.
Fuck.
And so I really, as a kid, I just learned to live with that line and just knew that, like, if I was playing a Sonic game or something, if there's like something I couldn't see up there, then I just have to like jump up there and figure it out. And so I lived that way for a long time, but it didn't make any sense because I got like 3 games for it, and then I never got another game for it because it was already like had come and gone in North America, really.
Well, I literally was looking at it, I think yesterday. And maybe you know this off the top of your head. I don't. I mean, I just looked at a picture, and maybe this picture was just a picture of somebody's collection, but it seemed to me there was only like maybe 30 to 40, 50 games maybe for it.
Yeah, not a whole lot of games, especially in North America where like Japan got the run of its like actual releases. So like if you look into like its game list, you'll see that most of them were Japanese only or Japanese exclusives.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And were they a lot of ports, or were they like exclusively made?
Yeah, a lot of like stuff that was like ported over from like either Sega Genesis or Sega Master System were like ported, and so you had all your like games that you knew. So you had all your Sonic games, and you had all Streets of Rage and Golden Axe and all those that anybody enjoyed. Shinobi, anything on Sega Genesis, they had kind of like the we have that game at home version that's like portable. And some of them were good. People talk about Golden Axe Warrior, and that was like almost like a Zelda clone. And it was not a beat 'em up game like the typical Golden Axe games are, but people consider that to be like one of the better like Golden Axe games, and you could play that on Game Gear.
Story about a Game Gear. This is back before eBay, and I mean the flea market was around, but like I don't remember like going there and ever being like, oh my gosh, they have this there, other than like I think they had a Dreamcast one time. But my buddy Daniel, I talked about him last episode. His family would get him like everything. He had everything. He had a PSP when it first came out, had a Game Boy SP when it first came out, Advance, PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube, all, like everything. Had a Dreamcast. He's the guy that had all the special like controllers and collected that shit. Well, this motherfucker had the best luck of finding old games off of people in this little shit town, bro. There was this family that lived like a few streets over. They would hang out with us sometimes. There's 2 kids that live there. Well, they're like, how you say this? Maybe their living situation wasn't the best, but we I don't know how to really say it without blast. Long story short, it wasn't the best, but we would hang out with these kids. Well, anyways, one of the kids was like, we got a Sega Game Gear, and we're like, what? And dude, these kids, despite their living situation, had a pristine Sega Game Gear, bro, that they didn't use. And Daniel, I don't remember what he traded for it, but he traded like something dumb, like a pocket knife. you know, they're like 10-year-old kids.
Like stick of gum.
Like stick of gum and a pocket knife and some of his pubes he just freshly grew in. And he got his Game Gear, dude. And I was like, what the fuck, man? So he's collecting shit back then. And
Yeah, I know.
I remember when I was looking at it, so I went back just for the show. I was kind of been looking back on stuff and just, just kind of having, so we can have topics and stuff to talk about or just help me remember shit. And I was looking at the Game Gear, bro, and it's almost the same fucking form as the Steam Deck, bro. I got a Steam Deck.
Yeah. I mean, it's just as big and clunky.
Yeah, the screen obviously is better and there's more buttons, but I was just looking like it's like people always say shit comes full circle, and I was like, I love how we had the Sega Game Gear fucking way before its time, and now we got the Steam Deck that's damn near the same size, the same look, same color, just bigger screen, more buttons.
Well, and as much as everybody wants to credit Nintendo, is if you look back on like Sega and their history and like how ahead of time they always were. One of their big features and this is something I never got into because I didn't have this technology, but there were probably people that are our age now that were our age back at the time that had a better understanding. But you could actually plug in, if you had like dial-up internet, you could plug your Sega Genesis in, and there was like an on-demand service, and you could literally like play games on like an on-demand like dial-up streaming service. And that's insane to think about that happening back in the mid-90s. Like you could get on and like play Sonic the Hedgehog on like the Sega channel, because that's what it was, the Sega channel. Just stupid ahead of its time. And of course, with that being said, it wasn't like particularly successful because not everybody had dial-up, and nobody had an understanding of how any of that stuff worked until only like the most kind of like wise to what was going on at the time had that hookup. But it was really cool. So it was like a monthly pay type service where you were playing games online on Sega Genesis.
Ain't that neat, dude? I wish what I would give to be able to go back and be able to live through like the 80s and shit, dude, or and experience some of this stuff that we missed. But that being said, man, that's why we're doing the show though, because I feel like there's a lot of people that enjoy the time that we grew up in and the 90s and the 2000s, man. I mean, I feel like it was, despite not being able to go back and visit the 80s and not experience it, I'm pretty happy with being able to say that we were brought up in the time we were, just because we had that perfect mix of no internet, but then we got the beginning of the internet.
I know.
It's just perfect.
I feel like we just got all the best of all the worlds in a lot of ways. Now we're just like hungover from it.
Oh yeah, growing up skating will make you tough. Did that for a long time.
Yeah, and got a lot of scars to show for it.
Yeah, never broke any bones, fortunately. But yeah.
Oh, lucky.
Yeah. So, we got an episode coming up, and it's probably going to be the next episode where we do like more of a deep dive into like handhelds and modern handhelds or modern retro handhelds, or however you like to say it, I guess. I got one here on hand. It's where's my camera? It's the Retroid Classic. We won't get into it today, but that's kind of like what we'll be shooting for next episode. But you do have something here that you wanted to show off and maybe talk to people about that are looking to get into retro gaming, and maybe if you feel up to it, you could share it.
Yeah, definitely. I got a little treasure chest over here.
Ooh.
And I have a lot of my Retroid gaming handheld consoles in here that will get discussed at a later time. But I think that there's a point that I kind of wanted to make, and I thought a lot about this as we were kind of talking about the 8-bit and 16-bit era and how it's become so accessible and so affordable and whatever. Like there's a great alternative for just having all this in the power, all this in your pocket, in your hand. You can go back and enjoy it on a pretty decent budget. But I also think that there's a lot of people out there that they care, and the physical aspect of it still means a lot to them, and they want to kind of experience that as much as they can. And I think it's easy to kind of like watch people's videos, and especially like collectors' videos, where it's like, well, of course they have like all these in-box mint condition, this, that, whatever. But like, it's still easy to get into the mindset of like, oh, well, there's no good entry level point into getting into those types of things. And so we'll talk about like retro handhelds, but as far as actual retro consoles and stuff goes, I got to like thinking a lot about that, and I have like one thing in particular that I can think of, and this would be like $70 to $75 range, and that would be, you could probably go on eBay or something to check it out, but that would be Sega Genesis Model 2. The Sega Genesis Model 2 would be usually, I mean, it would range like 30, 35 bucks on its own, console only. But if you get it with the controller, you're probably looking at about 50 bucks. And so you throw that bad boy controller in there. Now we're at about $50. If you wanted to throw another controller in it, you'd be looking at another 20 bucks. So that would take you to like 70-ish. But what's really cool about some of these old consoles is you had a lot of bundle games, and so when you bought a console like this, then you always got a game that came with it, and that was really like a neat thing anyways, because like pack-in titles, what's neat about those now is they were so widely distributed, and so like they always come with these, is now they're like dirt cheap because they're not for resale type copies. And so any kind of like game that came with consoles you can buy for dirt cheap, and one of the coolest ones you can get is Six Pack. And Six Pack has, let's see if I can tune that in there, kinda, not really, but Six Pack has 6 different games on it. And so you got Sonic the Hedgehog, you got Golden Axe, you got Streets of Rage, you got Columns, you got what else you got? You got Super Hang On, I mean, damn, and you got the original Sonic the Hedgehog on there. And so you get 6 games of various genres. You got puzzle games, you got racing games, you got platformers, you got beat 'em ups. 2 of those games, Golden Axe and Streets of Rage, are both multiplayer games. So you got 2 multiplayer games. Streets of Rage also has like one of the best soundtracks, like a Sega Genesis game. We could get into that because a big influence, and you'll hear it if you play Streets of Rage. Towards like dubstep, and its community came from the guy that composed the music for Streets of Rage, and you'll hear kind of this like pre-era, like really ahead of its time, like groove type sound that originally would eventually take a lot of influence and be like spread through dubstep. But it's really neat. I mean, fucking less than 20 bucks, you could have that, and for like 50 bucks, you can have this. So you put these two together, and for $70, you could have 6 games and a controller and a console. And I mean, you know, then we can get into like, oh, well, then I'd need a CRT TV. And it's like, yeah, you probably do. If you're going to be like a real big nerd about it, then you probably have to go find one at a yard sale or something. But if you really want to do this and you still just want to do it just to kind of like get a feel for it, then you can buy converters. That would be like a video to HDMI converter for like $8 to $10 on Amazon. So for like, you throw that on top. This, and also if we're talking about pack-in titles, I mean, you got Sonic 2. Sonic 2 is like one of the best Sonic the Hedgehog games anyway. This again, I went on a spree because these were so cheap for a while. These used to go for like $5 or $6 on eBay. So over on my shelf, I've got like 8 copies of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So you can never have too many copies of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Again, super affordable. So I mean, $80, and now you've got like 2 Sonic games and just a ton of like really, really good games and a lot of replay value. This is a really cool way to like dip your toe into it and keep it like budget friendly, budget oriented. And if we're making the comparison, and yeah, I'm just as much as the Nintendo fanboy as the next guy. But then if you're doing like a comparison, then you're saying probably $100 for a Super Nintendo that's nice and clean, whatever. And then at least $25 for their pack-in title, which would be Super Mario World. So you're already like $125 range just for entry. And then that's for a single game versus the Sega Genesis. You get 6 packs, 6 games, 6 games, 6 games, 6 games.
Extreme!
Yeah, I was like, so it's just like it's a cool value. And if you've been into this hobby whatsoever and at all, then this is probably like a well, no duh. But if you haven't, and these are the people that I'm talking to, is like that's a really neat way to get into it for under $100. You could like be playing some Sega Genesis games, not only like some Sega Genesis games, like some of the classics, like, and that was the 6 games, Revenge of the Shinobi. I said classics, and it came back to me just like that, because I fucking love Revenge of the Shinobi, and I hate that I forgot to mention it. So we're gonna make sure that it comes back around. Revenge of Shinobi 3 is one of the best, top 5, easily top 3 probably games on Sega Genesis. We'll get into that some other time.
Yeah, dude.
Sega Genesis, man, as I'm showing that some love, as I really want to get into some of these Retroid or these retro handhelds and stuff, but the old school, like real, plastic
experience.
Shit, this still means a whole lot to me. But I do like the accessibility of like where we're getting as far as like modern technology is like taking us. And so I've got love for both aspects of it, and I understand like the pros and cons. And I don't want anybody to ever feel like left out. It's like, well, I can afford one of these like little handhelds, but I want to play the real thing. Yeah. It's like you can figure it out, and there's a whole lot of other ways. And we'll go over some more like budget friendly like options, because I think if it sounds fun to you and you have just like a little bit of money to spare as like a hobby cash, we can get you set up on playing some good games.
Well, there's a couple points I wanted to make. On that point, something I like about my Retroid Classic being it's an Android device, I've actually replaced this. Obviously, it's not a phone. Some people will be like, "What are you talking about?"
That's the best part about it.
I love that, though. I don't get random texts and shit.
Me too.
But I can still use YouTube. I can still use Spotify. I love this form because I can go back and watch old cartoons on my square screen, and it just feels great. It's a great screen. I'm super happy with this, the Retro Classic. So that being said, though, you can experience like what we're talking about, like gaming, retro game, or not Retroid, but retro gaming through this, which is cool. You can do so many modern things about this that make it fun. Like I said, you can get all your other apps and stuff. But if you are wanting to experience like that older, more accurate or more hands-on kind of feel, like what Nico's talking about, that's a great way. But then if you're also somebody that maybe you don't want to spend money on, or maybe you want to dip your toes in, and we'll talk about this when we do the handheld because it's more in line with that, is you can get emulators and stuff, I think, right? For I don't know what kind of legal trouble we'll get in, but you can get some stuff for free.
Yeah, if you can legally obtain ROMs, you can play any games that you've legally obtained. You can play on these emulators machines, and it's amazing.
Well, if somebody
I'm lucky that I've been collecting ROMs since like the 60s or 70s.
Hell yeah! So you get a nice stack.
Yeah, it's like I'm an old man that's been just like nerding it out for a long time. I had these things on floppies back when I was in my teens.
Yeah, well, you're like a little nerdy hobbit, bro. That's out there gaming.
I just been stacked.
So could somebody, if they wanted to, say if they don't have the money to buy a handheld like one of these, or even invest in something like what you got there, like an actual old console, can somebody like get into this on like their iPad or the computer or the phones already? If that's because most people have
yeah, and that's an accessibility thing. Is I think the easiest, and I say the easiest like jumping point would be like your computer, but honestly, I also forget that not everybody just has like a gaming computer. A lot of people do. I mean, it's more than ever people do, but still not everybody does. And yes, you can jump right into like playing whatever game on any like Game Boy system or anything like that, like right now today on your phone, if you know how to go about doing something like that legally, of course.
Well, defeats kind of like what we were talking about on the show, but yeah, I mean, I was just thinking like, there are going to be people out there maybe listening that want to get into
it. Is, and that's a big part. Is I never want to like leave anybody out. Is like it's accessible to anybody on any like level of like knowledge of it, and then also budget, and so you can kind of scale accordingly to that.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, because I know, and two, like me, I'll get into something sometimes and maybe I don't like it, and so it kind of scares me away from even getting into it in the first place. So like, yeah, maybe if you don't know if you want like actual physical hardware consoles and stuff, it might be a good way, because some people
to try before you buy. Yeah.
Well, with stuff like nostalgic shit anyways, you might be thinking like, man, it was so fun, it's so fun.
I know.
You go get it,
Sure.
and maybe it wasn't as fun, and so, but yeah, if you
even so, like sometimes you might get one of these handhelds and just feel like you got the fix you need it, and then you put it on eBay a year later, and it's like, well, even if you got to feel that feeling, or maybe you didn't feel that feeling, you gave it a shot, and it was a cool way to go about doing it.
Yeah, I'm excited to break down all the little ones you got, because you got a bunch of different handhelds, and really, it's another reason why I want to do this podcast, because we've always kind of talked about gaming and stuff. We do these types of, we basically do a show like this in private every few weeks or once a month.
Yeah, exactly.
When we were kids, I'd call you every fucking day and we'd talk for an hour or two about just nerdy shit. So we've been doing this for 20 years. But yeah, don't call you every day now, but you know, but yeah, dude, I wanted to get into this because you inspired me more. I obviously over the years have made or I've taken trying to jump into this back then, but when you were showing off some of your handhelds and stuff like that, bro, like it got me into it again, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna buy a damn retro handheld, and get into this again, bro. And that's kind of where we're at right now, and I'm pumped for it because it's me and you. We've been friends for so long. I know, you know, we jive so good, we get along good, and it's just I get to wake up or I get to get on here and make a podcast with you, dude. I don't know, it's something I've always wanted to do.
I know, that's how I was today too. I was glad that we could get together. We'd had some technical difficulties and whatever earlier in the week, and we've been looking forward to it. Yeah. And so that was me, as I had a couple of things already kind of on my mind, and I am excited to kind of go forward with it and show off some of these handhelds, because they're really neat. I mean, I'll show you just like a small example of one, but this is cozy because I got the little pouch that comes along with this on Etsy. Cool. So somebody crocheted that for me. It's really nice. Yeah. And you pull that bad boy up out of there.
What model is that, or what brand?
That is the Trim UI brick. It's not my absolute favorite, but it's a really, really pretty screen and display. That's why I was seeing if it was on, but it's not going to turn on.
Is that your go-to?
That is not my go-to. That's just one that happens to be nice and sleek, and it was right here next to me. But it is funny because as I've gotten into collecting these and I've gotten kind of obsessed, like when I wake up in the morning, a lot of times I'll have like 2 or 3 of these like on or around my bed. I'm just like picking up one and I'll put down another, and I'll take one to work with me, and I have one that I play in the bed. And so there's like one for every use. And I'm not going to promote or advocate that lifestyle because I don't know about all that, but I do think that if everybody could have like just one, and that's a big point that I'll push, like when we do talk about these more and more, is like everybody will ask you which one is the best, and it's like, well, that's such a objective question. It's like,
oh yeah,
I think the philosophical answer is like the one that you have. It's like the one that you own. That's the best one. It's like you can make that one work, and it's going to play all the games that all the other ones play, really, anyway. So,
well, I think the most important thing is, what form do you want? Do you want a vertical?
Oh yeah,
or big horizontal?
Budget, form, all that.
I think for me, like I said, it took me almost 2 months to pick one out because I did balance and think about like what I want to get one to start with, and I already am like planning on another one. But my point is I was doing some research trying to pick the right one so I don't have to buy 2. But ultimately, I went with the Retroid Classic because of the look. Obviously, and extra buttons are nice. I wish I had a joystick with it, but I told myself like, hey, I'll get a different form that's not really meant to be carried around with me or whatever, and then get some joysticks. But that's something I think about too. If you want something, you're going, and we'll dive into this more on the next episode. But if you want something on the go, there might be some better alternatives for you. Versus like me, I got this because I knew I would be using a lot at home. I knew I wanted something I could lay on the couch or on the bed and just at night, because I use my iPad a lot, and I got the biggest iPad you can get. And it's so uncomfortable laying down with that thing. It's flopping over, and
it's like holding up a brick.
Yeah, this thing, I love it because it's big enough. I can hold it close enough. I can turn the light down and the sound down, or put. I went with this one too because it has Bluetooth, so I can put headphones in.
Yeah,
Where I don't bother my old lady while she's trying to sleep. So, like you said,
I
I
know.
wake up in the middle of the night. I turn this thing on. I turn the brightness down, and I'll get gaming or watching something, or turn a podcast on. And man, what I would have given for something like this when I was 5 years
It
old,
is
dude.
the functionality of it's
Oh,
insane. That and has a 4-inch screen, so it's got a nice screen anyway. The quality is great. It is Android, and so you're just running it as an Android device, and you can install all kinds of apps and such on it. Another neat feature with those is that if you wanted to, you could connect you're talking about Bluetooth headphones, but you can also connect like a Bluetooth controller. You can, and I don't remember what this cable's called. I'll look it up for you. I have one, but you're able to hook that cable and hook it into HDMI. So if you wanted to play it on your TV and stuff, you also have that capability. So it can become a TV system as well, and you can use that as your controller, or you can connect Bluetooth to it and
I
have like an
know.
actual like nice controller. It's crazy. The 8-bit do controllers, they run for like $50 on Amazon, and they're real solid and they're compatible with any of those Retroid devices. So it's cool, man. It's really cool.
Dude, that's what when I didn't even know these. I mean, I knew they existed, bro, but excuse me, but I didn't know it was on that level yet. And when I saw it had like
It
Bluetooth,
hasn't been. It just became that level like within literally like the last 2 years is like
wow.
just advancement, and it's kind of like how computers all of a sudden just took that leap in the last couple of years too. Like it took that leap along with it, and the technology was already always there, but it became more compact and more affordable all at the
What?
same time. And so like it's only like really like in reality like maybe a 5-year old like real like hobby and stuff, but just in the last 2 years it's become actually powerful enough to do what it's doing now.
And that's so wild. That is a fucking computer. This thing has, I think this model here is 6 gigs of RAM in it, bro.
Yeah, I know it
Like,
is. That
I,
is. There's the 4 and there's the 6.
I remember putting PCs together back when we were in high school. That had like we were happy like peaking at like 4 8 gigs of RAM, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Like like that is wild to me, and I think it's fucking cool. But it's the only, and when you're talking about being able to hook, that's another reason being able to hook it up to the TV multiplayer. It's literally like a mobile mini computer console thing for your spouse, you and your spouse.
Yeah,
It
I
doesn't
know.
take
You
up much
talking about
room.
like video streaming and stuff like that could all be accessible to your TV as well.
Yeah, I know through the Android. So that's why I went with the that one specific. I do want to get a cheaper model as well, that I can kind of my throwaway. That where when I want to just game, I like on some older school shit. And I'm talking about peaking out at like maybe Super Nintendo, or I don't
Yeah,
really like for this for because they make different models all the way from what like 20 to fucking 15 20 bucks all the way up to obviously a couple $100 or more. But
yeah, yeah. And I mean, generally, like anything under $100 will play up to PlayStation 1 games typically, and then sometimes it's iffy on like Nintendo 64, just because it's harder to emulate than a lot of games are. But generally, yeah. I mean, for $50, you can emulate anything up to PS1.
Before I forget, earlier you were talking about I know we're backtracking a bit. I meant to ask about it during that, but we got to talking. When people are looking for like those Sega Genesis or any consoles in general, especially retro ones, is there something they and maybe this is a bigger question, and maybe you could just keep it to the Sega Genesis. Is there something that people need to look for when they're buying those to make sure they're all like they're not some remake or something like that, or is there something to watch out for? Because I know duplicates or remakes are something, and I know sometimes they
Yeah,
work great. I'm not shitting on it. I'm just saying that like if somebody's wanting that, because there's going to be a lot of people that are like, we've got a couple of buddies I talk to sometimes. They're like, man, just put emulators on your PC. Like, why are you even like wanting to buy the old school this or handheld? And it's for me, it's just to relive it. I love being able to touch something like
oh yeah.
physical, and that means something to me. So it's like that's why
Yeah,
I do it.
well, and then
But
I get to be a nerd about aspect ratios and all that kind of thing
yeah,
too. But
Yeah.
I do think with consoles, you don't have a whole lot to worry about. As far as like collector type games and stuff, that's where you run into issues as far as any kind of reproduction cartridges. People aren't reproducing six pack because that's a $10 game used on eBay. People are reproducing Chrono Trigger because that's a $150 Super Nintendo game on eBay. And
Gotcha.
so, and so as the collector, you probably do want the $150 one. As the gamer, you might just want to spend $20 on the reproduction cartridge. And so, like, unless you're getting real serious into the hobby, you probably won't run into too much trouble. And then also note that if you're going back and playing like your favorite Pokemon games for the first time in 20 years, if you're spending less than $50, you're definitely getting a reproduction cartridge, no matter what they say. Like, there's no way. It's like Pokemon games are just like really, really taking off. And honestly, I don't know. You get into some weird stuff with that because we are getting into a time now where a lot of like Pokemon games, like people don't know, but they do run on like a battery save, and those batteries are going dead. And so those games, especially like the second generation of Pokemon that ran on an actual real clock, those batteries never stopped ticking. Wow. And so Gen 2, Pokemon Gold and Silver, those games batteries have just been draining since they got fired up basically for the first time, and you set that clock. Yeah. And so those games, you're getting to a point like, unless if you know how to like switch the battery, or somebody that does know how to switch the battery, or you're buying it for like an up cost because there's somebody that did put a fresh battery into it, then you're almost getting forced to buy reproduction cartridges because they do have fresh batteries.
I know mine were. I actually bought I think it was yellow, red, blue, silver, and gold. And I know they were reproduction because they were like, it was like $20 for all of them. But hey, a game that simple, it works fine for what it is,
Yeah, and that's me. Is I was showing you some of my Sega games that are actually authentic games, but I do have some of those like just packed in games where it's like you buy a cartridge on Sega Genesis and it's like maybe $30 and you get like 100 games or something. Yeah. And it's neat because you're still playing it on the actual physical console, but you're not paying crazy hundreds of dollars for some of these like rarity games that I'm not going to ever go out and spend money on anyway. Somebody might, but I'm not going to. And so, but it's cool to still be able to play it on console and have that access. And I don't honestly think Sega cares that much.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's so cool to be, I guess for years and years, I thought to myself, like, they're going to crack down on people like doing these ROMs and stuff and all this shit. And it's so cool to see, though, that it's still thriving and surviving. I didn't know this world existed with the little handhelds, bro. You've gotten me into it, and I'm just like, man, this is so cool. And like the elements, or like like I was saying earlier about the community aspect, that's the only part missing. It's like, she likes gaming, but she's not so much into collecting old consoles and shit like I am, or that deep, right? So that's the only thing about it, is like experiencing the joy with other people is the only part missing from it. So like being able to do these is so cool, man. I'm really having fun. I wanted to talk about the future real quick before we wrap it up. Obviously next episode we're gonna do a little deep dive into some handhelds. You're gonna show some off.
I'm ready.
Yeah. Little show and tell.
Treasure chests full of these things.
Look at that, boy.
Yeah, you can't see them all. They're all broken now.
I literally said they're all broken now.
The next episode's canceled.
I hope the repos. No, but so we'll do that one with more of a hardware episode, or diving into some consoles and some stuff that you've collected. So if you are somebody listening to on the podcast, there is a video version of this that's going to be on YouTube. You can just simply look up the name Memory Card Mafia on YouTube, or at Memory Card Mafia, and you should be able to find it. It's the same symbol up in the little thing here on the video. So you might, some of these episodes we are going to be showing stuff. It's almost essentially a show and tell at points. So if you are just an audio listener, you might want to tune in. I'm on like a video, like the YouTube version, but if you're on Apple or Spotify music, all that stuff, we're going to try to figure out how to get a video up there. I've messed with it a little bit, but so we're going to do that episode, but I would like to maybe make some plans for the future while you're on here, because we might not get to talk for a week. So what do you think about maybe doing like individual topics where we dive into, and maybe they might only be 30 minutes long, an hour long, but maybe like we say Dragon Ball Z or something, you know, a specific topic. So I was thinking, like, if anyone that's listening, if you could please leave a comment on the YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment down in the comment section. Last video we got a couple comments and stuff, so it was awesome. I appreciated the support.
Mhm.
But if you could leave us in a comment down below something from the 90s, more than the late 90s and early 2000s, if there's a game or a topic, whether that's, you know, Dragon Ball Z, some other anime, Toonami, you know, what, you know, video game shit, Mountain Dews. We're going to do a Mountain Dew video. I got to give some credit to some Mountain Dew, because
all the flavors of dew.
all the gamer fuel, fam, and maybe even do an energy.
Really. Code Red.
Yeah. Yeah, you think about it, we were there for the beginning of energy drinks, fam. That's how old we are. Drinking balls and Rockstar.
Mm-hmm.
Every night we'd walk up to that gas station up there, and we would either skate up there or walk up there and get
Rockstars.
big gold Rockstar Gatorades, and we'd go back home and game the fuck out of some games in your house all night. 5 a.m, still gaming. Like, man, that was such a good time, dude. We're gonna have a LAN party, and here in the future we keep doing these shows, we're gonna do a recorded LAN party where we hang out and do maybe play some games together or do something. I can't wait to get back down that way, and we'll do some live episodes where we're in the same room together, and we could actually do that kind of version of a podcast.
That'd
as well.
be really cool. Yeah,
I can't wait for that. We do a little sesh and show off stuff. Yeah,
I think doing some hands-on stuff with some of this game stuff, like the handhelds and stuff, it'll be really neat. We can go step by step and a lot of things to show off some things that people don't even know about, or if anybody's interested and wants to talk about or ask about, then we'll figure it all out and get everybody playing some games that are good.
Yeah. Well, as we build up the channel too, guys, gals, whoever's listening, as we build up and we get a little bit of leverage, we'll even shoot for some guests, whether that's people who've made games, artists, people who make music for games. I mean, it could be other shit too, other topics. Maybe you worked at a fucking Mountain Dew facility. I would like to talk to somebody. I want to know that was in the recipe
too. I want to know what fresh Mountain Dew tastes like right off the line.
I tell people, I was just telling somebody yesterday. I made a joke.
You're going to talk about Quiznos Mountain
Dew? I already knew, dude. I already knew, buddy. Like I said 2013, Kentucky, best Quiznos Mountain Dew in the world. You're in there talking about bottles being the best. I was like, bottled Mountain Dew, fam?
Who would ever say that? That's crazy.
Are you from Indiana?
Exactly. I know. Get out of here with that.
Get out of here. No, that shit was legendary, and we didn't talk about that. And maybe we can end on this, man. For what, like a year, I had where I got in trouble in school, dude. I had to. This is so dumb. My last semester of school, well, my full semester where I had a full roster of classes in high school, and I was supposed to graduate that year. I had classes like theater dance, art 6, like these stupid electoral classes. I was short credits from where I'd failed a bunch of stuff, where I got in a fight with little Ben and beat him up, and then broke in the vocational school. So I got suspended a lot, and I would get suspended on when finals were due, and that was like 70% of the grade, and your binder was like 30% of the grade. I don't know if you remember this shit, dude, but if you didn't do that, you failed, bro. So I had to either go to summer school or I just like legit failed those courses. Well, I'd accumulated this shit, so when I went to go graduate, I was short literally a credit, bro. And I don't know if you remember that, but I kind of do. I would go to school, and I would literally go to a robotics class, and we would play Age of Empire Lands with Trent and Ben and the other Ben, and but I would go down to the vocational school, dude, and I had one class. My mom, I didn't have a car at the time. Mom would come pick me up at literally, like, I would go to school for an hour. I'd play Age of Empires on a LAN party with Trent and a couple other guys we grew up with in Mr. Cash's class. and we would play Age of Empires, and I beat the shit out of them. I was pretty good at. I'm not now in today's standards. I'm probably fucking dog shit, but back then in our little circle, I was pretty good at Age of Empires, and we would do that. My mom would come get me at 9 o'clock, and I would go home and play WoW, beat Burning Crusade all fucking till lunchtime or so, and then you'd get off work about 3 o'clock. And you come over, bro, from Quiznos, and you bring beef dips, that good ass fucking cold, ice cold, guys. I'm talking now, ice cold, delicious Mountain Dew in your life, crisp, delicious, refreshing. Not that syrupy shit you get from a bottle. You bring beef dips over, Mountain Dew, and we play Halo 3. And I wanted to ask you, so I was thinking about this morning. I was taking a shit. Do you remember the time we were playing, and there was a mode where you could play like duos? And there was those you were riding on you could ride on like quads, and there was like a rocket launcher mode, and we were fighting those little kids, and there was these two little kids, and they were scrubbing our ass. They were beating our ass on there, bro, and they're like calling us pussy and everything, dude.
I do remember. I mean, that was always like a community, but I remember that in particular. As I do remember those kids. And usually that stuff doesn't bother me, but man. Fuck those kids.
Yeah, fuck them, dude. They're probably like 8 years old, 9 years old. We're fucking, like, 16, 17. And they're in there calling us pussy and shit as they like launch rockets at us and wreck us. I rarely did I get scrubbed or get my ass beat on Halo, but it was always like by little kids or something. With
that was like the era. It was like Call of Duty and Halo. Like if you got beat, it's because you got beat by somebody that was like half your age.
Well, those are the kids that grew up to be these streamers and shit now, right? Basically.
Yeah, exactly. Now they all have 9 to 5 streaming jobs.
Fucking Fortnite, the level that's gotten to, like the build version. Of course, our crew, we started playing the non-build version because I don't enjoy building on Fortnite. I played when it first dropped, but I've been enjoying the non-building version. The guys. We still play. You don't play so much with us, but we'll get in there and play some every few months or when a new season hits. And like those kids and the guys that end up growing and gals that play that game, like fucking, that shit god mode, like crazy.
You're in like a whole new era now too, because my son, I showed him like online servers for Minecraft the first time the other day, and he never even knew this was like a thing. We're getting on these like servers where there's like thousands of people and they're PvPing and stuff, and like all of a sudden it's like 6 going on 7 years old, and he's like ready to go play Bed Wars, and like that's basically a capture the flag type game for Minecraft PvP. And it's like I couldn't even imagine. Like I'm sure we were playing something like Mario Kart or something at his age, but we definitely weren't getting online to like PvP with other people and learning strategies on how to like capture the flag. And it's like, man, he's like his generation's on a whole new level of like video games and strategy, and like they're just tuned in. We didn't have that tune in yet technology.
Well, they also have guides and these videos and these people they follow.
Oh yeah, he's learning constantly. Yeah.
Well, PvP PKing for me, I know you're not a huge PKer.
I've kind of fell out with it over the years.
We did a lot of arena and WoW Battlegrounds, but
a lot.
RuneScape PvP or PKing in the wilderness was my introduction to that kind of shit. In that, like PKing now is kind of soft, but like games where you lose all your gear, like on RuneScape how it used to be in the old school shit, bro. That's the shit I like. I like Rust. Oh man, dude, Hurt World. Oh man, I think Rust. My buddy Card, and maybe we can get him on the episode to talk about that. And like this, I mean, just sitting there for 6-7 hours on Hurt World defending our base from a bunch of Asian players, Chinese trying to take our shit. 20 of them surrounding us calling pussy and all this shit. And Rust in that Hurt World game has made me a hard man today, and I don't mean sexually, my man. I'm talking I can take any form of abuse, trolling. Like imagine you work 2-3 weeks every day, all day on your base, and you got 20 dudes from China that can barely speak English, open mics outside your base on helicopters shooting it with rocket launchers, and it's just me and my buddy Card defending it for 6 fucking hours, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
and they're in like a completely different time zone. So unless if you're up at 5 a.m. defending your base, then you're gonna get raided.
yeah, we'll have maybe I can get him on and we could do
Yeah,
a
that'd be fun.
episode for like survival games because man, I think me and him both I think I got at least 3 to 4K on Rust. I got a couple counts, so I think on the other one I got 1,000 to 2,000 hours, and on Hurt World I'm up to 2,000-3,000 hours on there,
I
bro.
knew
Like
I
I'm a
was like,
fucking
yeah,
nerd, bro. I'm a
I'm
fucking
up in the
nerd.
thousands on both as well. So that's which is crazy to even think about now because I don't even know how I had the time, but I guess I made the time.
Well, you riding around on those Kangas out there in the desert, bro, listening to
Yeah.
fucking vaporwave and shit, building a little base. I
I could
miss
get
it,
off here and
bro.
go do that right now. I
Me
wish.
too, buddy. I miss it. Me and Karg, we get together every once in a while. We reminisce about Hurt World, and of course, we play Rust every once in a while. But, anyways, man, we got about 2 hours or so. Well, by the time I cut, some will be right at 2 hours. But we kind of coming to a stopping point. I've had you on here too long. I know you got shit you got to go do. I've had fun.
I know, me too. I'm
This
looking
shit's cool.
forward to the next time. I'm going to get into, we're going to start breaking some things down. I've been looking forward to that, but it was nice building it up to that point where it's like, we could easily go back and touch on all that. Like, there's been so many eras of gaming and just how we've come back around to just the old school and what that means to us and stuff. So it's going to be fun moving forward with it. And I hope we can inspire some people or help some people get kind of started in the same direction. Because if it sounds like something you're into, then I want to help you get into it the best I can.
And even if we don't, man, we'll have a bunch of videos that when we're hopefully 90 years old, shitting ourselves, we can go back and watch to remember all the good times.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's heck. I'll be watching them next week while I'm at work.
Yeah, we'll
tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll do a proper like a premiere, so we'll have a chat and stuff. It's just the first one. I wanted to do it on a Saturday to kind of drop it like Saturday morning with like like back in the day you see cartoons on the morning Saturday, but I feel like most people are busy with their families Saturday, so I'm thinking maybe moving the day. That being said, we'll work it out and figure it out and then go from there. But until we put on the next episode, man, I appreciate you and I appreciate everybody.
Yeah, man. Yes. Thank everybody and thank Chuck Dog for having me always, man. This is an amazing experience. It's like one of my ultimate passions. So just to be able to get on here and express it to my heart's content is everything I could ask for, honestly.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you hopping on and taking the time to do this, and anybody tuning in. Like I said before in the podcast, if you are on the show, if you're not interested in watching a video version, or if you're at work maybe or whatever, and you just trying to listen to something chill, we do have this version, audio only version on basically all the like Spotify's, Apple Music, should be on all of them. If not, I think Apple Music and Spotify is what most people use. That being said, if you are watching on YouTube or wherever you're watching or listening, if you could leave us a comment, if you like what we're doing, if you could just show us some support and just let us know. Me and my buddy here, we like to create shit. We've been making shit our whole lives. It gives us a tremendous boost. I know for me, I can't really speak for you, man, but just even a comment or two, just being like, man, I feel that. I'll fucking pissed him. I pissed in Mountain Dew bottles as well. Oh
yeah, that's me as well. Is like, in our first one is like we got a couple of people giving us love, and somebody shouted out the Game Shark and kind of said something about gaming just hasn't been the same since then. And it's like, I mean, I felt that, and we were talking about Pokemon earlier, and just like getting into Game Shark and having that access to like any Pokemon or any like Master Ball, like all of a sudden you're like the god of these games. You're glitching into them, and it made you feel like you're doing something like sketchy almost, like you're entering these codes, and now you have all 151 Pokemon. And so I was vibing with that comment, and I thought about that too. Is I actually have one over on my shelf now that I use for like Vice City and stuff.
You dirty fucking cheater!
I know, because Vice City is like one of the ones where you couldn't. They had all kinds of cheat codes, but they did not have a money code. And to make progress in that game, you had to have money to buy real estate. And so, but if you have a Game Shark, you ain't got to do all, you don't have to run down a bunch of people and steal their money. You can just type in the passwords.
Well, I think I'm going to leave you to banging the hookers in the back of the vehicles on Grand Theft Auto. So,
About that time.
All right, buddy. All right, man. We'll catch up here in like a couple weeks again, and like I said, we'll shoot for the handheld episode. We'll dive into a little bit some hardware and some consoles and show some stuff off. That being said, appreciate the support as always. And if you haven't listened to the first episode, go back and listen to it. That's it, man. All right, buddy. I love you, man. I'll talk to you later. Peace.
Take care, man.
Later.